So, you're looking to build a Tameshi Reality Architect Commander deck, but you're not quite sure where to start? Well, I'm here to help with that. I'm Capital G, and welcome to the First 10. Alright, so for those just joining us for the first time, what we do here is that we pick the first 10 cards that we want to put in any given commander's deck in order to highlight synergies, combos, and strategies. The rest is up to you, but hopefully we get a good start on Tameshi. This is a tough nut to crack. Blue and 2 for this 2/3 Merfolk Wizard. Whenever one or more non-creature permanents are returned to hand, draw a card. This ability only triggers once each turn. Doesn't matter who controls the permanent. As long as a permanent that is not a creature goes back to somebody's hand, you get that card draw. And white and X. Return a land you control to its owner's hand. Return target artifact or enchantment card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery. So yes, on your turn you can recur an artifact and get some value that way. As part of the cost, you do bring a land back to your hand, which does in fact trigger Tameshi's first ability. So obviously we're playing for value, but how are we playing for the win? Let's have a closer look at that. So first order of business is we want to run a bunch of artifacts that can synergize with Tameshi very nicely. And the first one that comes to mind for me is the Archaeomancer's map. When this enters the battlefield, we get to search our library for up to 2 basic planes, reveal them, put them in our hand. And after that, whenever a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, if that player controls more lands than you, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. This will definitely help mitigate the downside of Tameshi's activated ability. A great artifact to bring back are things like Lotus Bloom and any other mana value 0 artifact. So in the case of Lotus Bloom, it's 0 to suspend it. We cannot cast the card because it has no actual mana cost. We do treat it as a mana value 0 card. But we cannot cast it. We have to suspend it for 3, but once it's on the battlefield, this taps and sacks for 3 mana of any one color. But once we do get this into the graveyard, it costs only 1 white to get this back, and we ritual every turn. And the last artifact I want to highlight, and this is a big piece of the win con, is Teferi's Puzzle Box. Now this is not a friendly card to play. It doesn't look like much on the surface. At the beginning of each player's draw step, that player puts the cards in his or her hand on the bottom of their library in any order, then draws that many cards. So how it actually works when you play it is that the player draws their normal card for turn first and then resolves the puzzle box effect. Again, doesn't seem like much, but if we have the ability to return permanents to our opponent's hands, well, all of a sudden it's now on the bottom of their library. And even better is if we pair this with Narset, Parter of Veils. This is not polite, so this is not a combo for the faint of heart. Blue, blue, and 1. Each opponent cannot draw more than 1 card each turn. So people draw their card for their turn, put all the cards in their hand back onto the bottom of their library, and don't draw again. If these 2 cards hit the battlefield at the same time, the game is pretty much a lock. But of course we want to win the game and finish it. So that's where Psychosis Crawler comes in. Not only is it XX power and toughness equal to the number of cards in your hand, and we will have a lot because we're always returning lands from play to our hand. We're always drawing cards, so we are always going to have a big Psychosis Crawler to swing with. But even if we don't swing, whenever we draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life. That's going to be the big win con here. Other ways to help us get there include the Master Transmuter. This is a fantastic ad. It's 4 mana for a 1/2 Human Artificer, but it's blue, tap, and return an artifact you control to its owner's hand to put an artifact card from your hand onto the battlefield. This can be used in a lot of cool ways. You can bring an artifact to your hand, put a different one down completely, and as long as the artifact that you have returned to your hand is not a creature, you get the card draw off Tameshi. Alternatively, you can use it to defend your Psychosis Crawler. Someone points removal at it, you bring the Psychosis Crawler back to your hand, and you can put it right back down immediately or another card. Because it doesn't care what artifact card you put from your hand back onto the battlefield. It could be what you returned, or it could be a completely different card. Either way, very, very flexible. And of course, the big dumb creature here, Hullbreaker Horror. 7 mana, 7/8 Kraken with Flash, and it cannot be countered. That is amazing. So, you drop your 7 mana, it doesn't matter if your opponents have that Force of Will in their hand or not. They can't do a thing about this. Whenever you cast a spell, choose up to 1. Return a spell you don't control to its owner's hand, or return a non-land permanent to its owner's hand. So we are going to get a ton of value off of this once it's on the battlefield, in addition to the fact that it turns sideways very, very nicely. But if people want to turn sideways at us, and they will, Gossamer Chains. Double white for this enchantment, which we could reanimate with our commander if it ever ends up in our graveyard. But while it's on the battlefield, if somebody takes a swing at us, we simply bring it back to our hand. No additional mana cost to do this. And that unblocked creature deals no combat damage this turn. So if somebody swings in with a big, make it a 0/0 essentially. Our other defensive piece is Solitary Confinement. We have more than enough card draw to make this work. 3 mana for this enchantment, recently reprinted in Modern Horizons 2, originally out of Judgment. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice this unless you discard a card. Skip your draw step, you have Shroud, and prevent all damage that would be dealt to you. So it'll be very, very difficult for anyone to get at you. Really, the only card you're really worried for is stuff like Grey Merchant, or anything that causes everyone to lose life at the same time. Those are the only cards you're really going to be worried about at that point. Otherwise, you're untouchable, quite literally. Yes, you skip your draw step. That's fine. We have other ways to draw cards out of our command zone. So, we can defend ourselves, we can get all sorts of value, and I just want to highlight one other point here before we go. Let us look at Azorious Chancery for a second. So, depending on the power level of your table, you're going to see these bounce lands a lot. We're running a few here as well. Because, hey, we get the card draw without the work. We just play our land, get the card draw. Because we're going to be returning a land to our hand, triggering our commander. This is true if any of our opponents also play these lands. So be sure to look out for them when you run this commander, because your opponents just might accidentally give you free cards. And that is where we are going to settle it here. So those are my first 10 picks. And, well, I hope you like them. And what are some of your picks for a Tameshi Reality Architect deck? Love to see them in the comments below. And we'll see you all again next time. Bye for now.